Hey, breaking news yesterday about Rashad Penny, a little broken finger action. Oh, it hurts, but you know what? We've updated the Ultimate Draft Kit already. Updated Chris Carson, Rashad Penny projections, updated blurbs. That's what's unique about the Ultimate Draft Kit at ultimatedraftkit.com. Not only do you get all of the features that you need for draft day, like printable tiered cheat sheets, but you get updated information. It's not an old busted magazine that you picked off the shelf and you learned about players that don't even play on that team anymore from mid-June. It's up to date to almost a minute. Every little bit of news that comes out, we update the Ultimate Draft Kit so you're ready for your draft day, whether it's tomorrow, next week, or the week after. 100-plus player profile videos, all of our stat projections for each and every team, and like I mentioned, the tiered breakdowns, which you can browse in the Ultimate Draft Kit, and you get them on the printable tiered cheat sheets. Check it out at ultimatedraftkit.com.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
I just started on the wrong level to begin with, so it seemed best to just depart from all normalcy. Welcome in.
Well, you did it.
I did.
Congrats.
It didn't even come out at the volume level I wanted to begin with.
Reminded me a little bit of the Andy Holloway show after the show intro.
Oh,
classic throwback
wow.
for the Foot Clan who've been with us for some time.
It's a hard knocks life, Mike.
It's
tough.
That's what Jay-Z would say.
Welcome into the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Andy, Mike, and Jason, we're here. We've got a great show for you. Brooks is here running things.
In the He's house.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a hat on, which means he didn't shower
we
today.
We got Stinky Brooks up in the office.
Hashtag Stinky Brooks. Oh, that's going to be fun today. Top 10 quarterbacks on the show. Great quick question. I'm so excited. I want to get a quick announcement out of the way. Our live show in Phoenix on August 24th, which you can get tickets for at ballerslive.com, has had a time change where the doors are at 6, the show is at 7.
Yep.
But Andy,
yeah.
the show's so cool. I got my tickets already. I thought it was 7 and 8.
No, we wanted an extra hour to spend with the Foot Clan, and we were going to get kicked out too soon. So we wanted some meet and greet time, and we've made that arrangement. So just if you have a ticket, I'm talking to you out there in Phoenix.
Or the surrounding
area. The show's at 7 now. So what else is going on? I released my 32 Shamelessly Bold Predictions article. I believe that was yesterday morning. No sooner did Philip Dorsett go down in practice.
He's fine.
I know.
He's fine.
I'm a little paranoid. Do you guys watch Hard Knocks?
I did, yes.
You're darn right I did.
How'd you feel about it, Andy?
I love Hard Knocks. I love the Browns. I've been very vocal about my Tyrod support and my Hugh Jackson support.
You have a signed photo right over your shoulder.
I may or may not have a signed Hugh Jackson photo that I bought at a very small cost.
We all make mistakes in our lives.
Here's my problem with Hard Knocks this year is instead of enjoying it and the content that's being produced and getting the inside look at Jarvis Landry and company, I live in fear. I live in fear that Hugh Jackson is going to do or say something so stupid that I have to walk in here and listen to you two rail on him. Now, I think I avoided that yesterday.
I think you avoided it yesterday, just not last week.
Yeah, there was no major faux pas from Hugh Jackson this week.
Congrats. 1 week. 1 out of 52.
He even had a very quotable, unmotivated talent does nothing. That was a pretty...
Yeah.
I like that.
And Hugh Jackson I think he's got a place in the NFL. I really do.
You just don't think he's
it's
a head
not
coach.
a head coach. No.
But maybe it's only as a head coach. Maybe he is just too high level. Too overarching. You think he needs to be... I mean, Todd Haley, he's dominating on that show.
Todd Haley's great.
Here's my shamelessly bold prediction. By the end of the year, Todd Haley will be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I love
interesting.
that. I literally said that on a guest podcast I was on yesterday.
Did you?
Yeah.
Do you think Todd Haley accepts that position because he thinks that's the most likely path to a head coaching job again?
I think it ran through his head. I mean, he's not a dumb guy. That had to have crossed your mind going, okay, if I want to be a head coach again, is there a path for that to happen? In Cleveland it is. I will throw out the part. I can't remember the name of the guy he was making fun of. It was
it's a good story.
Was it like Carl?
Oh yeah,
what he was talking about.
Just his name being Carl. He's like, this little baby comes out and you just name it Carl
or whatever the name was. It was
Carl.
It's so funny.
All right, quick question of the day: 32 shamelessly bold predictions. You can check that out at thefantasyfootballers.com. Brooks put this in. Which bold prediction in the article has the best chance of coming true?
Wink, wink.
No, I had no idea until I sat down here.
Hey, guys, which one of my predictions do you think is going to come true?
No, I like it. This is a fun article every year. Last year it had a lot of things that were right, a lot of things that were wrong, of course, when you go bold.
They're bold.
But my favorite one from this list that I think has fantasy relevance, I think it will come true, is your bold prediction that Latavius Murray will score 8 times. I think that when they get down around the goal line, Latavius Murray will be used. That is a good offense, and they're going to be in good game scripts where they're going to be running the ball. So I think Latavius Murray is currently being a little bit underdrafted, undervalued right now because his role could and should expand over last season. That's the one I would go with.
And I'm going with the one about Sammy Biscuits, Mr. Sam Bradford, quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, that when he starts, he will not finish outside of the top 15. We have as a whole, our bold predictions. In fact, that's the show we are doing live in Phoenix, ballerslive.com if you want to come to the show. A bold prediction of mine may or may not involve Mr. Sam Bradford. May or may not. You'll have to show up if you want to find out.
I'm guessing it will. I would love to answer the Tyrod Taylor. I believe he'll play as the starter for the full season and finish as a top 12 fantasy quarterback. That's my favorite. That's my favorite bold prediction. It's not the most likely.
Correct.
Because my most likely choice is that A.J. Green will finish as a top 5 wide receiver. I think that is bold because he hasn't done it since 2013. It's 2018 now, so he hasn't had a top 5 finish since 2013, but I believe that he is the same A.J. Green, and I think, last season he finished 11, and everybody thought he was a bust, and they ran the least amount of offensive plays in football, so the opportunity for A.J. Green to put up another top 5 season is there.
Agreed.
I think it can happen, and I think you're going to get a value. Where is he? 208 right now, something like that?
Correct. It looks like he is the 8th wide receiver off the board.
Okay. Let's get into the news.
News and notes from around the league.
All right, Big Ben is in the concussion protocol.
Yes. He took a tumble, hit his noggin, and is in protocol. It's just good practice for the NFL. I don't think there's anything to read in too much here outside of possible extension of the Madden cover curse for Antonio Brown.
Oh, that's where we're going? Hard-hitting analysis.
All I know is there's 3 injuries now.
Ghosts and goblins and witches and Madden curses.
His entire phrasing was that he took a tumble and hit his noggin, so I'm not surprised it went into the Madden curse at the end. Quincy Enunwa returned to practice after he had suffered a thumb injury. Pete Carroll says it's still a bit before tight end Ed Dixon is able to return.
Ooh, yes.
Are you paying attention to Nick Vannett right now?
You're darn right I'm paying attention.
You have
Nick
to.
Vannett is the tight end that is currently working with the starters in Seattle. They do not have a lot of pass-catching options, and Russell Wilson's pretty good.
If you watched, the first preseason game for the Seahawks when the starters were out there, Russell Wilson was looking for Vannett. It changed my opinion. I had been fully opposed to Nick Vannett being anything possibly relevant this fantasy season. I think it was Ed Dixon, and I didn't think Vannett even had the talent to do it. But, I mean, just in that one game, I went, oh, they're using him a lot. He's out there. He's getting the opportunity. So he should just be on the radar right now.
And I read there was an update on Nick Vannett, who has some kind of a back issue, a herniated disc thing that he's dealt with his entire life. And they've changed up his training regimen, changed up his stretching and how he's working on things. I know that's a fluff piece of training camp. I feel the best I've ever felt. But for a guy who was kind of seen as a little bit of a disappointment so far in his career to now be impressing, maybe that's part of it.
All right, Philip Dorsett went down. I mentioned it earlier in practice. However, later reports have confirmed that he avoided serious injury. Is that correct, Mike?
That is correct as far as we know right now. He did go back to practice, caught some passes, standing still, and says he's okay. And we do need to I know we started the show with it.
No.
Oh, yeah. I got you.
Breaking news.
I'm in control. I know what's going on, Mike.
Well,
I got things taken care of.
Maybe.
This came out late yesterday. Some breaking news. Literally. A broken finger. Rashad Penny, rookie, first-round running back for the Seattle Seahawks, is now dealing with surgery on a broken finger, out 3 to 4 weeks. You do have some debate over the timetable, depending on who's reporting on Twitter. Some believe he will miss the start of the season. Some believe he will be back in time for the start of the season. In either event, I don't think he's getting the reps that you would hope for to start the season.
No.
And this means Chris Carson shall rise from the ADP ashes.
Yeah, of course. Chris Carson is now the starting running back for Seattle. I believe that Rashad Penny will actually become a value now in drafts. Not that he wasn't already heading that way with all the Chris Carson hype of Penny's not going to be the starter, but we're to the point now where Penny will drop at least 2 rounds or so in the ADP. You're going to be able to grab him. What, Jay? Do you think 7th round?
Yeah,
6th, 7th round?
Already right now in the 6th round, and that news broke last night. So, I mean, this is a guy that will be going in the 7th, 8th round, and at that point, I'll take him. This injury is, look, you never want to have a broken finger and have to have surgery, but we have, there's history of people who've had this surgery, been back in 3 weeks to full production. Some reports were saying if it was important games going on right now, he could play. I don't like it. I don't like a rookie missing training camp,
right.
And definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, Chris Carson starts week 1 as the primary ball carrier, whereas before this, I thought, hey, by week 1, it'll be 50-50 or even 60-40 in favor of Rashad Penny. But, I mean, I loved Rashad Penny coming into the NFL draft. He was my second favorite ahead of Kerryon Johnson behind Saquon. And I have not drafted him at all this year because his value is way too much in the 3rd, 4th round.
I believe that you're right. I believe that there will be a window, though, for Rashad Penny's value to be the most extreme. It will be probably in the next week or two, if you're drafting in that time period, before you get positive post-surgery news about him returning, potentially being active in week 1, that's your window.
I agree.
And I want to throw this out. This is not part of our news, but I think it's relevant. I did a live best ball draft, and it's a 10-teamer, so the round there is a little bit of deflation here. But Sony Michel went in the 9th round. So pay attention to the value of Sony Michel. He should not be taken off your draft board. You need to look. There's going to be a point in your draft where he presents a huge value of the possible starting running back.
Would you go Carson and Penny in the 7th and 8th rounds and lock up the backfield in Seattle? Because very likely you could do that.
I would not.
I would not either.
So you would rather have Penny and Duke Johnson than you would Penny and Chris Carson?
Yes.
Wow. I would not at all.
I guess I wouldn't necessarily see it as I have to take 2 running backs there. So, a 7th round wide receiver looks really good. I don't think Chris Carson holds on to the job But I see the argument for what you're saying, Andy, is if you believe that there will be production there to go around. I mean, I don't think any of us look at the Seattle line, the Seattle offense, and say, I want that running game.
And that's why I don't want to lock up both of.
But if you pass on running back early and you've got a guaranteed starter with upside, it's a thought.
Sure.
It's a thought to me at that late in the draft. Now that they're both potentially 8th, 9th round
good
pick.
values. Yeah, I really need just a little tweak of something, a little bone
like
bruise
a hamstring
to
or
carry on Johnson. Something that's just
Oh,
going to
gosh.
look.
Oh,
Sony
don't
Michel,
ask for that.
Sony
What are
Michel
you doing?
is down in the 7th now. Come on, man.
I need some bad publicity.
I need some bad publicity.
You just said you hope that Kerryon Johnson, one of your favorite running backs, gets a bone bruise.
just a little one, just a baby.
2
guy.
weeks ago, I brought this up with him.
My goodness.
I said Jason wants some PED allegations or something against Kerryon, and he's like, "No, I would never think that."
Well, I just want him to get
He's
a bone
rising
bruise.
up the ranks too much.
It's very specific. He feels like a bone bruise is just enough pain to drop his ADP without hurting his long-term prognosis.
I don't want a hamstring issue here. Those are
Sweet
real.
mercy. All right, let's jump into the hype train. A lot of news lately about wide receiver John Brown of the Baltimore Ravens. A standout in camp. John Brown, we've known him around here in Arizona for a long time. He is a great player. He dealt with major injury recurrence, sickle cell trait issues of that nature that eventually ran him out of town. They didn't feel like they could reinvest in him in Arizona. But if he's healthy, if he's John Brown of old, he's a great wide receiver. He was
Correct.
a player that put up a 20 target game.
Yeah, he had 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, and that was in his, I believe, his sophomore season. He was my guy 2 years ago because, I mean, he is a very, very good football player. The issue, like you said, Andy, it's all been health related. Now his sickle cell trait has not gone away, so the worries of possible injury exist. But I mean, if all the reports are great, you talk about a great best ball pairing to have the strong arm of Joe Flacco, hopefully with the heat of Lamar Jackson kind of pushing him to make throws down the field. I think John Brown could be a very pleasant surprise.
I don't think you need to qualify it in best ball. I think John Brown has a better season than Michael Crabtree.
Oh,
Is that in your article?
It is.
Because that's hot.
I know. People really like Michael Crabtree. I don't. I think John Brown will have a better season as long as Joe Flacco's under center. So, Kristen Michael.
what a world.
Is still in the news. Received plenty of work with the first-team offense in Indianapolis. Mike, there are many out there that don't even understand why you call him the woke one.
Because he had an awakening in Seattle. Look, the haters are going to forget when Kristen Michael was a running back 1 for half of the year because they say he's done nothing. False. He was a running back 1.
This matters, doesn't it, that he's running with the first-team offense?
It's a running bit on the show of how I tried to support Kristen Michael early on in his career. But, yes, this 100% matters. If Marlon Mack is in trouble with his hamstring injury and Robert Turbin's going to miss 4 weeks, the guys that Kristen Michael have to hold off are Nyheim Hines, who is not a featured back.
No, he's not big enough.
And Jordan Wilkins, who was a late-round draft pick. Wilkins is a fine running back.
Less experience.
He has a long way to go to become the starting running back for a professional NFL team.
If you draft tomorrow, Mike, are you drafting Kristen Michael?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Are you drafting him over Jordan Wilkins?
Yes.
Based on how things have trended, first preseason game.
You have to.
I completely agree. I
Yes!
struggle to acknowledge that.
What a
because,
world. Mike's
look,
verified and Kristen Michael's relevant.
There is no doubt that Kristen
Coincidence?
Michael must be a Leo because August 1st through August 22nd is Kristen Michael time. I mean, every August, this is when Kristen Michael
Now we're in astrology?
is the zodiac.
This guy.
I'm just saying, Has there ever been a
By the way,
player?
I'm just saying is not an appropriate retort to all of our condemnation of your analysis. I'm just saying. Hey,
It's not
I
quality.
went to Sedona.
It's not.
I was in the Cyclones. I had my gems.
It's not quality analysis here. It's pointing out that every single August is the only time Kristen Michael is truly relevant.
I saw
and
his
gets the
face in the sweat lodge.
through the steam. I saw he was awake.
I had a piece of toast. I put the butter on.
Oh my goodness! All right,
There it was.
Here's some Jaguars hype train news. Corey Grant, we've seen him be electric, running back, undersized, kind of third down guy, but they say maybe he'll be used a lot more. Wow, that's really bad.
This is what when I read it, it was like, oh, he's got to
bad.
be used more, and then quote maybe a lot more. It's like,
Well, the best part was where I read about it was Nathaniel Hackett, offensive coordinator. It was I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially it was he won't be dumb enough to not use Corey Grant again.
Right.
The keyword again. Like Corey Grant was an electric player last year, and you still didn't get him on the field. We want him on the field. He's
He's not going to be fantasy start worthy.
exactly.
But
He's
ever.
going to take over Chris Ivory's gone.
but
He's not going to take Chris Ivory's job.
I'll bet he does.
Why? That makes no sense to me. Chris Ivory's a first and second down, take a playoff bruiser. Corey Grant's a third down, undersized scat back.
Chris Ivory caught a lot of passes.
Yeah, that's
last
not how
year,
Chris
though.
Ivory was used.
TJ
last year.
Yeldon's got that role, in my opinion.
My point here is Corey Grant, I don't believe he will become fantasy relevant unless you're in a really, really deep league, but he could become more of a thorn in third down work for Fournette than people want to buy into.
I believe that wholeheartedly. We've talked a lot about the opportunity that exists from, what did you call these situations, Mike? On our live show, I believe.
Yeah, they're gross.
Gross situations and how
Sure.
there's value that emerges. The Jags wide receiver core is one of those gross situations where you didn't know if it's going to be Moncrief or Cole or Westbrook or
Marcus Lee.
or
ASJ.
or even DJ Shark, right? Who thus far has been said is the most impressive receiver at camp, and yet Dede Westbrook has been a standout at camp. I do think because we saw Dede with the high draft capital last year, the good performance in preseason week 1, his upside, he's the one I take the shot on now.
Sure. Do
you buy the hype on Dede Westbrook?
I buy the hype a little bit. It's tough because Marquise Lee was paid. He was chosen over Allen Robinson to come back and be the leader of their wide receiver core. But Dede Westbrook is an excellent wide receiver and is going to get a lot of targets. He won't be utilized as the field stretcher when you have Moncrief, when you have Keelan Cole. That would be not an appropriate use of Dede Westbrook's skill set. Last year he missed a lot of the season start with a leg injury, came back and was getting a whole bunch of targets immediately. So I don't mind taking the shot on Dede.
All right, one more bit of news. Jason, do you agree with that, by the way? Do you buy the hype on Dede Westbrook?
I do. I think Dede Westbrook and Keelan Cole are the two wide receivers I care about from the Jags.
Marquise Goodwin is, quote, clearly Jimmy Garoppolo's favorite target, and I buy the hype on Marquise Goodwin, who last year was Marquise Greatwin.
Yes.
You want to know why? It's because when the last time we had Kyle Shanahan involved in a hype train in Atlanta, it was all about how he's always focused on a favorite receiver. It was Pierre Garçon in Washington. It was all the upside of Julio Jones in Atlanta. If Marquise Goodwin is that player, and it's not Pierre Garçon, because what are the other options? It's Goodwin or Garçon, right?
And George Kittle. There are many. I know that's the narrative for Kyle Shanahan, but
why can't we apply it here if we've applied it every other time?
Well, we don't. We mention how those guys, how there are times when there's a standout on the team like Andre Johnson and Julio Jones, and they command a huge target share.
And Pierre Garçon in Washington,
right? But there are plenty of instances in Kyle Shanahan's career where it doesn't happen. It's not an every year guaranteed type of thing. But I buy the hype on Marquise Greatwin being a better player than the public has believed he is. San Francisco rewarded him with a decent contract, and it won't shock me if he is the number one. I still like Pierre Garçon, a good deal, but Marquise Goodwin could end up being the number one wide receiver on this team.
Marquise Goodwin is being drafted. Wow.
That's what I was about to bring up.
Wow. Is that 608?
Apparently people are buying the
Oh, my
hype.
goodness. He's being drafted 2 rounds ahead of Pierre Garçon.
He's being drafted 1 spot ahead of Sammy Watkins.
Well, I don't buy that. That's the most shocking ADP that I've seen
I don't
in
like
the
it.
last month.
Yeah, I mean,
I expected to maybe not find him
it is
and thought everyone was back in on Garçon.
despite the fact that the Kyle Shanahan, it is actually a little bit of a crowded receiving core with Garçon, with Goodwin, with Kittle, with Dante Pettis and Trent Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor.
And McKinnon,
Yeah,
he's got to catch some passes too.
Kind of feels like Goodwin is the McKinnon of the wide receiver world. They believe in him to the degree of paying him more than everybody else believed in him, which is like McKinnon,
He came through last year.
and he's an athletic freak.
But when he came through, he was the passing game.
Yeah.
Like Garçon was out, George Kittle was dealing with injuries. Carlos Hyde is not an elite pass catching running back. So Goodwin, when he was put as the only guy, was the man. Let's see if he can do it though when there's other targets around. Before we jump into our top 10 quarterbacks, want to tell you about the NFL Game Pass. We all have it.
heck yeah.
Our riders have the NFL Game Pass. This is where you go and you get every out-of-market preseason game live. The top rookies, the comeback players, new players on new teams. It all happens live with the NFL Game Pass. We're digging in with this thing nearly every single day. This is how we go back and we watch the games. People frequently ask, how do you review the film? NFL Game Pass. That's how you get it done. So make sure you watch all the action this preseason with the NFL Game Pass. Will Baker Mayfield win the starting quarterback job? Maybe.
Nope.
Maybe.
Yep.
Maybe eventually. How will Jordy Nelson fit on the Raiders offense? Can Kirk Cousins take the Vikings to the next level? Best of all, you can kick off the 2018 NFL season with a 7-day free trial of NFL Game Pass. Sign up now at NFL.com/fantasyfootballers. That's NFL.com/fantasyfootballers. Game on.
And we know it's been a long off season without football, but FanDuel, they've been out there getting in the best shape of their life. Means that FanDuel is ready for more, and football is almost here. More ways to play, more ways to challenge your friends, and most importantly, more ways to win. If you are a casual fan, if you're wanting to get into FanDuel, you haven't played yet, they have contests of all kinds just for casual fans too. In particular, a Beat the Score contest where all you got to do is beat the score, and everyone who hits that score, if you finish in the money, you split an equal share of the cash. They also have things where you can now play with your friends because, as FanDuel says, the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends' cash, and that is factually accurate. Best of all, FanDuel is doing their part to make preseason bearable with preseason fantasy contests running up to week 1 of the NFL. So right now, you can get a $10 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just go to FanDuel.com/footballers. That's FanDuel.com/footballers. Age and state restrictions do apply.
You guys realize this? I just thought about this. Saquon Barkley, is he playing this week?
No.
No. What about the second running back off the board?
Oh, you're talking about the rookies?
So Barkley, Sony Michel, Rashad Penny, Darius Geis, the first 4 running backs off the board. Literally the thing I look forward to watching in the preseason the most.
You know who is playing?
Kerryon Johnson?
Kerryon Johnson.
All the focus is on Kerryon and Royce Freeman. And as far as I'm concerned, watch out, guys. Those two need to keep their head on a swivel because these rookie running backs are banged up.
It's the running back position. This is what happens, and this is the reason that people go 0 running back
Because
in
of
their
injury.
draft. Because of injuries. Because later round running backs can appreciate in value, while late round wide receivers rarely do that.
Strong point. Let's get into the main event.
Quarterbacks.
This is why you just take a quarterback with all your picks, Mike.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
certainly. You want to go early round, when the first pick, take your quarterback.
So if you've been a part of this show, you know we subscribe in almost all cases to a late round quarterback philosophy that the quarterback position is one that the majority of leagues, you only start one quarterback. And so it's a single position. It's not running back where you start two or wide receivers. And so we generally prescribe that. Now, if you're in a two-quarterback league, changes the equation, right? You got to start just as many quarterbacks. You got to compete and fight for, multiple quarterbacks on your roster with all the other league mates. I say all this because we're sitting here talking about the top 10 quarterbacks. And in a lot of cases, if you subscribe to that philosophy, you might not get these guys.
Right.
So if
by choice.
Yeah, by choice. But what I would pay attention to is, look, this is our top 10 consensus quarterback rankings. The names that you see here, a lot of them actually fall in that later round quarterback category, and that's how we have them projected to finish as, in this top 10 range. So pay attention to those names and why we believe in them, because they will be potential values for you later in the draft. And look, if we have extra time, maybe we throw a sleeper out there at the end of today's show. So let's kick it off with a name that you might know.
Number 1.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
Next.
I like to talk about Aaron Rodgers. It's like I've gone down Madison Avenue and I'm just doing some window shopping. I'm looking in going, man, look at that real expensive, cool leather jacket that I will never, ever have. It looks cool. I would love to have it, but I'm not paying up. I'm going down to Ross.
Do people wear that jacket all the way to the title game, though?
No, they think they're cool. They think they're hot stuff. And then they go, well, wait, I paid $600 for this jacket? Mistakes were made.
That's why I don't have any pants on.
Could have had a whole outfit.
I could have bought pants, but now I don't get pants. I just get this jacket, and I'm still cold.
Why are the police after me?
Pants. Yeah, look, Aaron Rodgers is great.
Just remember, you dropped a quarterback early. You are a pantsless fool.
Exactly. The running backs equal pants. Wide receivers equal shirts.
That's why they're always trying to sell you watches when they open the jackets.
I don't get it, but okay.
This person in particular should not open the jacket.
Those are the people I'm talking about.
I don't want to see anything beneath the jacket if that's all you're wearing.
All right, so back to Aaron Rodgers. He is fantastic. There's no debate there. Since 2011, he has averaged a 16-game pace of 38
The Volvo got
touchdowns.
shut down.
Yes,
voice of public opinion.
But Jason, he scores more points than anybody.
That is true. That is 100% true. Aaron Rodgers will score more points than most people in the league for two reasons. One, he's the best quarterback, and two, he's a quarterback. All the quarterbacks are going to score more than most of the players in your league. Russell Wilson. I mean, you look at Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan last year scored more points than most of the players in your league, and he was the umpteenth, finishing quarterback. The quarterback position is valuable across the board. The difference between Aaron Rodgers and the 12th best quarterback is much less than the difference between your first running back or your first wide receiver and your 36th running back or wide receiver when you're starting two or three of these at the position. He's great, but I will say this. He's going to be the first quarterback off the board. He has lost his number one target in Jordy Nelson. I think he'll overcome that, obviously, because he's Aaron Rodgers. Reggie Wayne
He's lost his number one target many times in his career. And I know Jordy Nelson was a stabilizing force at the wide receiver position for Aaron Rodgers. But
full seasons
Jordy did not make Aaron Rodgers.
No,
full
correct.
seasons of Aaron Rodgers. This is his fantasy finish.
Since 2008.
Since 2008, 2-1, 2-1, 2, 1-7-1.
Yep.
Man, that's 7.
Can we
What
move
a
on
bump.
now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Number 2.
Number 2 on our consensus rankings, it's Russell Wilson.
Russell?
And I will say this. I probably won't have Russell Wilson on many rosters, if any at all. But the first thing I want to call out to Russell Wilson, since his career began, has finished as a quarterback one every single year, including 2 top 3 finishes and last year as the number 1 quarterback.
That's 6 years.
Look at the average draft cost of Russell Wilson. The beginning of the 6th round or the back of the 3rd round for Aaron Rodgers. Russell Wilson's a stud. He's a rushing quarterback. He gets the lift, gets the boost because it's only 10 yards per point on the ground as opposed to 1 for every 25 passing yards. And he's got Doug Baldwin. He's got Nick Vannett, the new hotness coming in, Nick Vanette. Russell Wilson's a great player. He gets it done every single year. I don't know if there's much else to really talk about. He had 34 passing touchdowns last year, most among quarterbacks in the NFL.
Why don't you handicap his percentage chance of finishing number 1 overall again for a second consecutive year? Because I actually have it pretty high.
I would say I'm going to give it about 30%, which I think is high.
I think it's a 50-50 shot. Just because, look, if anything, this team has turned into a more offensively dependent team.
They want to run, but does that just mean that Russell Wilson ends up running more?
The nice thing is Russell Wilson is being drafted as the 4th quarterback off the board. So you're drafting a guy who, I mean, look, he could finish 8th. You know, he could finish behind 4th, but you're not drafting him at his ceiling. And when you get him in the 6th round versus Aaron Rodgers in the 3rd round, you at least get shorts. You know what I mean? Like you got the jacket, but you got shorts on because you were able to use your 3rd round pick on a running back or a wide receiver, and your 4th and your 5th round pick.
What about this? Brooks had a good question. If Doug Baldwin is out, let's say we find out he's going to miss some time, how much do you downgrade Russell Wilson production-wise? Do you believe – I mean, genuinely, we would apply this philosophy to anybody with a top-tier wide receiver, right? Big Ben's not going to be as good without AB. Julio, if he's gone, Matt Ryan doesn't put up the same number.
It would be significant to me. I still would have him as a quarterback 1, but it would be near the end. I would assume he would be my quarterback 10, 11, 12. He's going to get it done on the ground and find other weapons. But when you lose Jimmy Graham and you lose Doug Baldwin, if you were to lose both of those pieces, you can't have him repeating as the number 1 quarterback.
I'll say this, though. 2014, Doug Baldwin, 825 yards and 3 touchdowns. Russell Wilson, quarterback 3 on the year. He finds other guys. He will get it done.
He was the number 1 quarterback last year, and he didn't have 4,000 yards passing.
That's the stupidity of rushing quarterbacks.
It just shows that may be true, Jay, but it is what it is. And at this point, if the defense takes a step back, if the division's difficult and they find themselves in deficits, and Russell Wilson runs around and chucks the ball deep to a healthy Tyler Lockett and company, it's probably going to be another good year for Russell Wilson. And going at 603, it's a strong
like I said,
case.
I probably won't have him, but I can at least accept when people say, well, I had to grab Russell Wilson. And by the way, that year that I mentioned of 2014 and Doug Baldwin's line, that was the leading receiver on the team.
Right.
It's running. It has always been running for Russell Wilson.
Number 3.
Speaking of running,
Cam Newton comes in at number 3 on our consensus quarterback rankings. I have him at 3, Jason 3, Mike 4. Last year he bounced back. In fact, his last 4 years have been a bit of a yo-yo. In 2014, he was the 17th best quarterback. Then he went to that Super Bowl number 1 season.
He went MVP.
Yeah, that was a league-winning type of year, especially where you acquired him. And then in 2016, he was back down to 17, and the doubt fluttered in, and everyone was afraid he wouldn't run again. And then last year, he was number 2. And this year, he picks up a healthy Greg Olsen, at least for now, DJ Moore, a rookie wide receiver with a lot of talent and ability. And then he's got the power of a pass-catching running back in Christian McCaffrey and Norv Turner at the helm as the offensive coordinator.
Jason.
Mike.
As the resident master of the horoscope.
Oh, goodness.
How are things looking if you read the constellations for Cam Newton for this season?
When you talk about Carolina, you've got to go crystal ball.
Obviously,
I
apologize.
You are, but I've looked into the smoke of the ball, and I will say this:
The ball smoke.
The ball smoke. Wheels falling off the wagon here. Look, Cam Newton, has the best.
It's bad news when the ball is smoking.
Core of receivers that he's had in his entire career this year. Steve Smith in his peak was better, but as far as
that was really his rookie year, and that's it.
Yeah, and as far as a complete team, with all the weapons you just laid out, you didn't even mention Devin Funchess, who was a wide receiver 2 last year.
Scrumptious.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast.
just joining us for the
Devin S.
first time.
Scrumptious. We did have 2 top 10 accuracy ranks in the draft, so we got to go when we get a little silly for all those new listeners that are like, oh, that don't dive deep. We dive deep.
We're gonna need a drop that when things kind of fall off the rails for a second, I hit it and it just goes beep 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 beep. Just so you know, just a reminder. They actually were very accurate in their predictions. Moving on.
So anyways, but with the fact that you've got 5 out of 7 years for Cam Newton where he has finished in the top 5 at quarterback. We're not talking like, oh, he's okay. He is one of the elites most years other than those 2 outlier 17 finishes, both of which he didn't play 16 games. I would say that the chance for Cam to finish top 5 this year is extremely high, and he's being drafted as the 7th quarterback off the board. So here is where we start getting to what I believe is actually good value in your draft. If you're afraid of – I don't draft quarterback before round 10.
Right.
I'm tier-based, so it could happen, but usually that's that's when it matters. Andy is petting our Cam Newton McFarland here. But
I love him.
Due to the rushing capability, the wide receiver weapons, the draft cost, this appears to be a very good outlook for Cam Newton.
I love him so much. The combination of upside and draft position, he's basically an 8th-round pick, and he didn't just run last year. His 754 rushing yards were the most for a quarterback since Russell Wilson put up 859 back in 2014. It is what you get with Cam, at least right now. He's 28 years old. He's going to do it at least for a couple more years on the ground. I'm just a really, really big fan of the value. If you told me Cam Newton was being drafted exactly where Russell Wilson is, look, we all have Wilson ranked higher. It wouldn't be a discussion. I wouldn't be as excited. It's a as a fantasy.
Okay, I was going to ask that question.
As a fantasy commissioner, it's not just excitement about the player. It's excitement about what he represents in the fantasy landscape. And this year, he still represents value.
With Cam Newton, you're getting
I would take it. I would just draft a quarterback.
You're getting very affordable, maybe cheap pants, jeans.
With the tracksuit, full tracksuit.
All right.
Foundational.
I don't know if that's better.
Here, the difference, though.
What's a onesie? Is he a onesie?
Oh, like a singlet? A romper?
A romper.
Oh,
that's
no,
where I was going.
Yeah.
We're downgrading.
Cam. Yeah, so it's about a round difference in draft price from Russell Wilson to Cam Newton. Even though he finished as the number 2 quarterback, he harmed your team 50% of the time. I know he comes through with these week-winning types of performances, but Russell Wilson was far more consistent.
I mean, does he harm your team with a 17 finish or an 18 finish?
100%.
That's a harm?
If you are finishing as the 17th or 18th quarterback in a week, that's a harm.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, Russell did it 5 times. Cam did it 6 times. So
that's a lot more, and
that's one more.
It's one more.
Yeah, not a lot. I wouldn't go a lot.
I thought I heard you
5 and 6, and
I heard you wrong. Apologize.
Cam was 13, 17, 18, 15, 17, 22 in those weeks. Russell Wilson had a 24, a 23. Yeah, I mean, I'd take Russell Wilson over him, but for the round value, I would actually see if I could go 801, Cam Newton. And he's my, 8th player. Oh my goodness.
Sure.
Oh my goodness. All right, let's move on to another player you might know.
Number 4.
Tom Brady. Tom Brady is it's funny because he's our consensus 4, but he's not ranked higher than 6th in any individual ranking. It's the combination of, you're going to see the picks, the quarterback rankings after Tom Brady. You're going to see more and more variation in where we have guys. Because I have Brady at 8. Jason, you got him at 7. Mike, you have him at 6.
Yep.
I believe he led the league in receiving yards last year?
Not receiving. Passing.
Passing yards?
Yes.
We're good.
Yeah, that's what I meant. 4,577 yards, 32 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. You're going to get efficiency with Tom Brady.
26 passing touchdowns in the red zone, the most among quarterbacks.
It was a really solid year for Tom Brady over the past 7-8 years. He's really been a top 5 quarterback. I mean, that's what you expect from Tom Brady, but there's been a lot of turnover at the pass catching area. in New England. He's getting older. Do you think he belongs at this number 4 spot? I mean, I don't see any situation where I have him because he's going in the 5th round.
Yeah, I mean, look, if he finishes as the number 1 quarterback, no one's going to be surprised. He's Tom Brady. He puts up great numbers. But you do have to weigh in the risk of, I said this even last year, and he had a great year, but when you are 40, 41 years old, you deal with injuries differently. And he didn't get injured last year. That's great. But, we saw this with Peyton Manning, and this was coming off of a world-beating Peyton Manning. It wasn't like Peyton had lost a step. It was once he got that injury late in his career when he was getting near 40, it was hard to recover from. I know that you're the plant man, Tom, and your body is primed and all the vegetables are keeping you healthy.
It's 80% chlorophyll.
Right. Yeah, that's why his numbers are so green.
Oh.
They're green means go. He's great, but there are risks. You do have losses. He lost Julian Edelman for the first 4 games. He lost Brandon Cooks. Philip Dorsett got injured. I mean,
He's still got Gronk. That's all he needs.
He's got Gronk. He's got Hogan. He's getting Edelman back. I like Tom Brady, but what Andy brought up, the 5th round, that's where.
No, thank you.
I mean, you just look at the other wide receivers and running backs available in the 5th round versus the running backs and wide receivers you're going to get in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th round. And then compare the 2 quarterbacks you would get. I'm fine letting someone else draft
Taking
Brady.
Tom Brady, you're going down the bunny hill at the ski lodge.
Yes,
it's fine. You're going to be safe, but you paid a lot to not have much fun.
Okay.
Number 5.
Drew Brees. Hotly debated Drew Brees.
It's nonsense in here.
He's number 5 on our consensus rankings. He's
too high.
He's 10 for me, 9 for Jason, and number 2 for Mike. So this is your show, Mike. You can write it. If you are in the Ultimate Draft Kit, we have a report in there called the Consistency Charts, and we show you how a player has finished each and every week of the previous season. We have them in there for 2016, 2017. Drew Brees last year. So if you finish in the top 12 at the position as a quarterback, you're green, right? You got a green week. Jason just said green means go. If you finish in that next tier of quarterbacks, the tier in which Mike said hurts your team,
right? And absolutely,
it is yellow. Drew Brees is looking all mustardy.
He's a corn on the cob.
He is. He's got 4 weeks last year where he was a QB1. That's it. 4 out of 16.
Every other week last year, he was a quarterback 2, and quarterback 2s are not good
Mustard
enough
is gross.
to help you in a single quarterback league. First of all, Mustard is great, but
not in this case.
Not in this case, no. He crushed you last year. He still finished as a quarterback 1 because he never had those weeks where he was, the 30th quarterback. He was always at least quarterback 2.
25% of the time he was a QB1.
And, we saw this for several years in a row with Phillip Rivers in the past where he was consistent enough to where he wasn't the worst, and at the end of the year his rankings would be good. He'd be the quarterback 11 or 12, but he killed you if you actually played him through the season. He just didn't have enough upside. I think that's what you're going – I think Drew Brees bounces back, has a better year than last year. But if you're I will say that half of his games he will not be a quarterback 1. At the end of the year, will he be a quarterback 1? Sure. But half of his games, he's going to hurt you on a weekly basis because he's not going to need to throw for 3 touchdowns and 300 yards. He can, but he won't need to, and so he won't be called to do that.
I mean, half, almost, there's like, what, two quarterbacks last year that were over 50%? So if that's the standard you're holding him to.
I'm saying that's
not even a realistic expectation.
I'm saying that is the best case scenario for him. I'm not saying that's worst case. I'm saying the best that he does is that 8 of his games are going to be those games where you go, okay, he didn't crush you, but he didn't help you win this week in fantasy football.
Mike, I'm going to toss it to you, but here's what you do know about Drew Brees. He's very, very likely he's going to play 16 games because he's been doing that for the last 8 years. More than that. So you're going to get him for every game. You're also going to get a quarterback of an offense that should finish in the top 10, at least, in the league.
Yes.
So these are 2 things you know about him. His 3-year average right now is 42% of the time he's a top 12 quarterback. I believe in the rebound of Drew Brees. I do not believe that he's the number 2 overall quarterback. Mike, if you believe he's the number 2 overall quarterback with that 6-12 draft position, is Drew Brees going to be on some of your teams?
It's possible.
If he drops into the 7th round, do you think Drew Brees will be your quarterback?
Not likely.
Okay.
Because of the replacement
Philosophy.
value and how I treat the drafts, there's still going to be players that I want in that 6th and 7th round. Over the past 5 years, the Saints' pass-to-rush touchdown ratio is over 2-1. In fact, sometimes well over 2-1. Last year, you had an anomalous drop from 2016's 2.3 passing touchdowns to 1 rushing touchdown to a 1-to-1 ratio. Drew Brees was coming off of 3 years of leading the league in passing yards. Yes, the numbers were down. I can't argue against Drew Brees being bad for fantasy. The facts are facts of what happened last year, but I can call it anomalous with the very, very strong and very long history of what Drew Brees has done under Sean Payton in New Orleans. He has weapons. Michael Thomas is an elite wide receiver one. I've talked at length about how the deep completions, the deep touchdowns, it just didn't come for Drew Brees, and that's the touchdowns, not the deep completions, because he's one of the best deep passers in the league. His touchdown rate over his career is 5.3%. This past year it was 4.3%. We talk about if you're in on Marcus Mariota's positive regression, how can you not be in on Drew Brees having a positive regression?
It's really simple. It's really, really simple. You're talking about a 5-year period where there was a monstrous change from having one of the worst defenses in the league. Like, literally, you played against the Saints every time there was a possible matchup in fantasy because you knew that there was going to be so many points scored, to all of a sudden one of the best defenses of the league on 1 year change. That's what changes everything for me in the equation.
So
of
then,
what he's able to do.
Isn't the counterpoint to that, though, that when he's had a great defense in the past, they were one of the best offenses and he put up some of the best fantasy numbers?
That's a
In
great point, but that
2010
is a much younger, 2010. That's 8 years ago.
Okay, 2013, they had a top 5 defense in giving up points and yards, and he was quarterback 2 on the year. I don't buy the defense argument at all.
That's the cool thing about fantasy football. We get to find out.
And on top of it, he has no Mark Ingram for the first 4 weeks. The work that has gone for Mark Ingram, it's not all going to Alvin Kamara. They're going to have to lean on the passing game more in those first 4 weeks.
Number 6.
All right, maybe the biggest surprise of our consensus rankings so far. Matthew Stafford comes in at number 6. I am at 4. Jason, you've got him at 6. Mike at 11. And so, in some ways, I guess this is my Drew Brees pick of this top group.
Sure.
He's just a player I believe in. Last year, number 7. The year before, number 7. The year before, number 9. He is a reliable 4,000-plus yard passer with opportunity, I think, to improve on that slightly. Probably going to get around the same amount. 7 years in a row with 4,200 yards or more. He's got a really nice schedule to begin the year. I really like Matthew Stafford as a late-round quarterback option. If you beyond Cam Newton's value, it's Matthew Stafford for me because he's basically an into the 9th round, early 10th round pick in most drafts, oftentimes ignored. Oftentimes, you don't get the highlight reel type of stuff from Matthew Stafford all the time, but at the end of the day, you're very, very comfortable with the fantasy production from Matthew Stafford in your lineup.
Yeah.
So
yes.
that's all it is. It's a comfort level with Matthew Stafford. And last year, 29 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions. He's just a good quarterback.
He is a good quarterback. 6 of the last 7 years, he's been a quarterback 1, so you know what you're getting. His weapons, you could argue, have been improved. Another year with Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay coming into his
smooth.
The routes of Kenny G, so smooth. And then one of the other things I look at when I'm drafting a quarterback late in the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round, I look at the opening schedule, and the opening schedule is fantastic for Matthew Stafford, starting with the Jets, the Niners, the Patriots, and Dallas. There's no matchups there that I would go, I need to sit him.
The Pats?
No, not at all.
I mean, they were they were dominant the second half of last year.
The second half of last year, they were good. I think they've got a decent defense.
Okay.
But the one thing I know is
they're
when
also
you have
not in New England for that matchup to start the year, so that made me more
They're in
comfortable.
Detroit, and whenever you have two great quarterbacks going against each other, there's always a home Stafford against Brady says put up points.
Sure. I agree. I'll be real quick. Even though I have Matthew Stafford at 11, I love him this year, back of the ninth. So even in your home leagues, maybe you're getting Stafford in the double-digit range, and he's a later, not a super late, but a later quarterback who could just be your starting quarterback for the entire year.
Number 7.
All right, number 7 is Andrew Luck. I have him at 5. Mike has him at 5. Jason at 13. I think I know the analogy for Andrew Luck here, and this is, if you know a friend and you've invested money with him in the past, and you get paid out each and every time, it's kind of just take my money. Just take my money and do something with it. With Andrew Luck, I think Mike and I are both probably of the opinion that if he's going to be the starting quarterback with one of the best receivers in the game on a team that can't play defense, then I'm in.
Yep.
I'm in on Andrew Luck. And right now he's the 8th round pick. I don't know if I'm going to own him. I don't know if he's going to be on any of my teams because I could probably take Cam Newton.
He's going to rise in ADP.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Well.
That means Newton will be my guy.
Over the last month, he's gone from the 10th round to the 8th round, and the arrow is
We're
still pointing.
going.
Another
The arrow is
preseason
still
game.
pointing up. If you're drafting right now, Andrew Luck is actually a value. I probably have him too low at 13. I'm leaving him there to ensure that he gets through a couple more preseason games, doesn't have any setbacks physically. But the value is there today. Now, in another month when drafts are happening at the end of August, if he's in the 6th round, yeah, I'm not grabbing him.
2016, the last time he played, he was the 4th best fantasy quarterback.
You can 3 of the past 4 years when he's played 15 or more games, so it's pretty close to a whole
Any
season.
of his full seasons, 9-4-2-4.
Yeah, but I'm saying 3 of the last 4, top 5.
Yes.
He's a great quarterback, and right now, I'm with Jason. The value is there right now, but I would have some concerns over the next couple of weeks of him just rising too high.
Number 8.
Captain Kirk. Kirk Cousins coming in at number 8.
Pew, pew.
I have him at 7. He was one of the players that actually moved up a little bit recently in the Ultimate Draft Kit. Jason at 8, Mike at 8. We all pretty much agree on the upside of Kirk Cousins. Incredible weapons in Minnesota. Great pass-catching weapon out of the backfield in Dalvin Cook. 2 of the best wide receivers in football. Some ancillary pieces that I think are really valuable there in Kyle Rudolph and the other wide receivers in that wide receiver room. Kirk Cousins just has everything laid out for him, and then thus far in preseason he's looked great.
Since becoming a starting quarterback in the NFL, so that's 3 seasons of Kirk Cousins, he's finished quarterback 8, quarterback 5, and quarterback 6. Now we know that his head coach, Coach Gruden in Washington, has a system that it's very friendly for fantasy quarterbacks. We've seen him have success in a few different places, including with Andy Dalton, who Andy Dalton has turned into rubbish for fantasy purposes since Gruden left. We will now get to see, is Kirk Cousins a product of that system, or is Kirk Cousins actually a good quarterback? I am on the side that Kirk Cousins is actually a very good quarterback.
He's a good quarterback.
And he's set up for success.
He's got the best weapons he's ever had. If there's any downside here, it's the fact that, similar to the Drew Brees argument from my standpoint, I think that they won't ask him, does he have the capability to throw for 5,000 yards? Yes. Would he ever in a million years need to or be asked to on this with this type of a defense? No.
All right, let's move on to
Number 9.
a player that I think fits, if Mike has Drew Brees up higher than the average and I have Matthew Stafford up higher than the average, this seems to be Mike's guy. Or I'm sorry, Jason's guy. Big Ben Roethlisberger. I have him at 12. Jason, you got him at 5.
I do have him at 5, and here's the simple and honest
He has
truth.
done that once before.
He has done it once, but if you look at his games played, the simple and honest truth is he's usually a top 5 projected type of guy if you were to play 16. The big shock here isn't that I have him at 5. It's that I've statted him out for 16 games. Right now he's
been
banged
concussed.
up. Right, exactly. He had his noggin bonked, as we have established. So I will say this. I like where he is right now for draft season, assuming, he's fine from this concussion.
Right.
His early season schedule is good for the first 3 weeks. I believe that the offense is going to be absolutely electric in Pittsburgh with Juju, with James Washington, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, the defense taking a step back after losing Shazier. I think Ben Roethlisberger will be great. Now, at the end of the season, does he finish at number 5? Only if he plays 16, and he very well might not, even as simple as just being sat in week 17, which is the common practice if they've locked up a playoff spot for Mike Tomlin.
I'll say the year that Big Ben did finish number 5, that was Martavis Bryant's big touchdown season. Since that time, Pittsburgh hasn't had a wide receiver 2 like Juju Smith-Schuster. So I don't hate the ranking of number 5. I think it's aggressive. I think number 7, where I've got him, is just perfect.
He was number 10
you
last
think your
year.
rankings are
My ranking is perfect.
pretty good, huh?
It's the best.
All right, let's make some headlines here.
Number 10.
I think this is where people are I can see the YouTube and the Twitter comments and question marks and all those things, because up to this point, you're still listening going, where is Carson Wentz? Where is Deshaun Watson? Maybe that's the bigger one.
Tune in tomorrow.
Nope, tune in right now. Tied. We have them tied. Consensus number 10 for each guy, which is interesting because there are parallels between them. High efficiency.
A lot of parallels.
High hype. High hopes.
As our friend Jeremy would say.
Now, Jason still has Deshaun Watson at 4, and I still have Carson Wentz at 6. So we buy into the, I guess, the long-term high upside value of both of those players. But based on our consensus rankings, they come in tied at 10th. What do we want to talk about here? I mean, Carson Wentz, there was news yesterday that during an interview, he said himself it's going to be close when asked about his availability to even play in Week 1. And if you are the Philadelphia Eagles, you're taking no chances with your franchise quarterback. You're putting Nick Foles, the Super Bowl MVP, in the game for the first couple weeks.
I think if I were coming off of an ACL tear or some kind of major injury at the quarterback position, this is what I would say every single time to the media. I would just be getting it out there. It's going to be close. It's going to be close, because then either way, you come back Week 1, you're a superhero because you've miraculously recovered, and 2, you're putting teams, maybe you're getting them off their game, the defenses of, okay, well, we got a plan for Foles, we got a plan for Carson Wentz. So I think that's the move that I would go with.
As opposed to the Andrew Luck of last year move?
Yes.
He's definitely going to be ready.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, with these two guys, all the parallels, you have 2 knee injuries, one that was worse for Carson Wentz than for Watson later in the year, and a worse injury, but they both bring fantasy value with their legs. So we don't know for sure how they're going to run this year, whether they'll be hesitant at all to put it on the ground as often as they did last season. That's one issue. But the biggest issue between both of these guys, look, I've got Deshaun Watson as my number 4 quarterback. I think he's going to rush enough to matter, because that's what fantasy football quarterbacks, give him such a big bonus. But he is the quarterback 2 taken off the board right now, ahead of everyone we just talked about other than Aaron Rodgers. That's insane. We've seen him for how many games? 5, 6 games that he has actually, I think, started 5, played in 6, or started 6, played in 7.
Yes.
I mean, it's too small of a sample size with a guy coming off of an ACL to say, I'm going to take him number 2. You are hoping that you get that 3-week stretch where he lit the world on fire with every touchdown pass to Will Fuller imaginable.
No, I mean, even if that efficiency comes down, the counterpoint for Deshaun Watson staying in that top 3 is that the rushing pace, if he's healthy, you're in the 700s. I mean, he ran for 269 yards on 36 carries in 6 games. So
if he becomes the quarterback 4, where I have him ranked, he will not provide value on being drafted as the quarterback 2. That's my point.
He has a worse offensive line than Carson Wentz has. He has a better outside weapon in and DeAndre Hopkins, maybe 2 better weapons in Will Fuller and DeAndre Hopkins. And he's also been removed from the injury a little bit more than Carson Wentz. So it's interesting when you look at both players. I think we expect them to be very good professional fantasy contributors
just
for a very
regression.
long time. It's just regression.
Yeah.
Last year,
he threw a touchdown every 6.5 passes. I mean, that's impossible.
we're just reiterating that point. at this point.
Because that's the big point for me for Deshaun Watson, for both of them, Wentz and Deshaun Watson. League average is right in the middle of the 4% of for a touchdown rate. Deshaun Watson over 9, Carson Wentz over 7%. Historically, when guys do that, they regress. But will Watson be able to do enough on the ground to counter that? Throwing a touchdown every 6.5 passes.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Last year, Carson Wentz was the top 12 quarterback, 76% of his starts, 71% for Deshaun Watson. So they were both elite league winners last year. Carson Wentz with as many top 5 finishes as Brady, Rivers, and Goff combined. By the way, people doing the Goff yesterday, Mike.
Oh, you got to do it to the left,
Do it to the right.
Oh, my
Do
God.
the golf. All right. Hey, don't forget, after a long offseason, FanDuel's ready. More ways to play and, most importantly, more ways to win. If you're not a fantasy expert, they have all kinds of contests just for casual fans, like Beat the Score, play with your friends, because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends' cash. And they also have preseason fantasy contests going right now. So sign up at FanDuel.com/footballers and get a $10 bonus when you make your first deposit. Age and state restrictions apply.
All right, that does it for today's episode of the show. Come back for some more quarterback talk tomorrow. Maybe some more names that you'll be paying attention to late in drafts. We'll bring you some quarterback sleepers.
Check
and a lot
out
more.
draft.com/ballers for all of your best ball needs. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.